If you ever come across this children's show, do not let your kids watch it. His 8-year-old son, Ethan, was very hard to keep entertained. Usually after school, Ethan would beg his parents to let him watch TV, but after 10 minutes, he would already be bored. That was until he discovered Jolly Roger. He was scrolling through a popular kids streaming service when the big red writing that read Jolly Roger showed up on the screen. Ethan immediately said that he needed to watch this show. In his dad's opinion, it looked like it might have been aimed for kids a bit younger than Ethan, so he suggested that they choose a different show. Ethan furiously stomped his feet and insisted that we must watch that show. His dad decided that he would watch the first episode with him just to make sure it was okay. So he clicks play and a man walks out onto the screen. He came from inside of a large pirate ship and he walked up close to the camera as the words Jolly Roger flashed up on the screen. The thing he noticed the most though was the man's smile. It was the biggest grin he'd ever seen on anybody before. It almost looked like his lips were being pulled back in order to smile as wide as he was. Then he began to talk.
Hello kids, how are we today? I hope we're all happy,
he said in an excited over-the-top voice.
My name is Jolly Roger, and I hope that we can all have a good time today. We will be singing, and we will be dancing, and we will be having fun.
The dad continued to watch the episode, and it was pretty much what you would expect. Jolly Roger pulled out a guitar and sang some nursery rhymes. Then he began teaching some dance, and then he moved on to the arts and crafts portion of the show. Roger then said that it was time for him to go, his large smile still present.
But before I do, we can't forget to sing the Jolly Roger song.
He sang while waving to the camera.
Every day is happy, so don't be a grin dodger. Smile big, smile wide, just like Jolly Roger.
He did smile big, and he did smile wide throughout the whole episode. That big wide smile never disappeared from his face. Once that first episode was finished, the father decided that it would be safe enough to leave Ethan alone to continue watching Jolly Roger. So he got up and told Ethan that he was heading to his office. But Ethan didn't respond. He was just focused on one thing, the television. Before he knew it though, 2 hours had passed. He hadn't heard a peep out of Ethan, which was unusual. So he went back out to the room and found Ethan still sitting in the same spot, his eyes transfixed on the TV. Glancing at the TV, he saw that Ethan was already on episode 6. The father then grabbed the remote, paused the show, and told him that it was time for dinner. But Ethan didn't protest or even get mad. He just said, okay, and got up and headed to the kitchen. The family ate dinner together like everything was normal. Everything seeming to be fine until it was bedtime. While Ethan was brushing his teeth in the bathroom, his dad went into his room to get his bed ready for him. That's when he noticed something sticking out from underneath Ethan's bed. He reached down and pulled out a small toilet paper roll. Over the top was a thin layer of tissue paper, which was blocking one end. He felt something rattle inside, so he looked in. Inside the toilet paper roll, there was a small tooth. At this point, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw Ethan standing in the doorway, one hand behind his back.
Hey bud, you didn't tell me you lost another baby tooth. When did you lose that?
Today, I pulled it out myself.
What do you mean you pulled it out yourself?
He asked, growing more concerned. Ethan looked at him for a second before replying.
Jolly Roger told me to. He told me that the magic wouldn't work if I didn't do it. It was a part of his arts and crafts. He told me that I needed one of my teeth and some of your blood.
Ethan suddenly stepped towards him and pulled his hand out from behind his back. In his hand, he was holding one of his dad's razor blades. Ethan swung the blade at him, leaving a long, narrow cut along the top of his fingertip, causing him to drop the toilet paper holder. Ethan quickly bent down, picked up the toilet roll holder, and placed it on top of his now wounded finger. The father then snatched the razor out of Ethan's hand and began to berate him. The father then eventually placed Ethan into his bed. Grabbing the toilet roll holder that now contained the tooth and was smeared in his blood, left his son's bedroom, slamming the door behind him. This behavior was completely unexpected for Ethan, but something had him more worried than just the violence. Jolly Roger told him to do it? The father had to find out what that meant. He then spent the next couple of hours watching through every episode of Jolly Roger. Everything he watched, though, seemed normal. There was a lot of singing and dancing, and Jolly Roger only ever made innocent little crafts as you normally would see on kids shows. There was no mention of teeth, no drops of parents' blood. By this point, he was now finishing the 6th episode when he felt it. He could feel 2 fingers on each side of his face, forcing their way inside of his mouth and pulling upwards. He felt these fingers inside of his mouth, pulling his lips, forming a large, unwanted grin. There was something forcing him to smile. The invisible fingers pressing his face into a large, never-ending painful smile. For some reason, he thought to the old saying that smiles are contagious, but this was one smile he could not wish to pass on to anybody. Now, going forward, he's cautious of anyone he sees smiling. Maybe they were just happy, or maybe their kid also watched an episode of The Jolly Roger.